Hello again, welcome back to Take 5. This is the second day and we are going to be looking at Acts 17 and 18. There's too much in these two Acts to really cover it all, so I'm going to just focus on a few things. We see Paul again on his journeys. He encounters people in towns that he comes across, and sometimes he gets a warm audience, and sometimes he gets a bad audience, a negative crowd, or sometimes he causes riots with what he's doing. He's sharing the gospel openly, and for those who have ears, they will hear, and they believe and come into a faith of Jesus. But those who don't cause problems and issues. And I suppose one of the lessons we can learn from that is that we don't need to stay in difficult situations. We can choose just to hone in on a warm audience. I always think that it's better to have someone who's 50% there already than completely negative, because at least then you can have a dialogue, you can have a discussion. And Paul uses scripture to discuss with people who are already slightly warm to faith, and so therefore they can chat things through. The one passage which really stood out for me was the time he went to Athens. Athens was the cultural capital of Greece. It's where all the power plays of the past went on, but that power, that glory was gone. So Athens really was the centre of religion, and it was the centre of culture. Beautiful architecture, beautiful temples and statues of all these gods. And that's what Paul noticed as he wandered around the city. He realised that there were so many gods and so many temples. And then he comes across one that says, to the God, the unknown God. And an idea pops into his head that this could be a great linchpin, a bridge that you could build into the minds and ideas, because Athens was a cultural place that loved to debate and philosophize and to hear what the latest ideas were. And here was Paul with a totally new, fresh idea he could share. I always love it when scripture actually reveals something new to me, and I learn something about the background of scripture. And I learned through studying up on this chapter that the whole process of getting this unknown God was actually about 600 years before Paul arrived. There was a plague in the city, and they didn't know which God to appease, which God to turn to. And so someone got the idea of driving a flock of sheep through the city, and wherever the sheep would settle, whichever temple or statue of a god that they would come close to and just settle down, that would be a way of letting fate dictate who they should sacrifice the sheep to and who they should ask for help. But the trouble was, some of the sheep didn't settle in front of a statue or near a temple. And so, being a very cautious people, they decided, well, perhaps there's a God that we don't know about. Let's sacrifice the sheep and ask the unknown God for his help to stop the plague. And that's where these altars to the unknown God came from. And Paul says, okay, you didn't know this God. You're obviously very cautious, so you need to understand who this God is. Let me introduce you to him. And so he did. He told them that they needed a bigger picture of the whole God idea. This was a very superstitious city who always wanted to do the right thing by the gods, but they had no concept of the big God, the God of gods, the King of kings, the Lord of lords. And this is what Paul introduces them to. And I think that's a lesson for us. We need to find something with our non-Christian friends and family which connects us, that they are groping around for truth and trying to find truth in whatever place they find it, or try to find it. And say to them, look, I can see you're searching. Let me guide you towards some truth that I've found. I have found this God who is amazing. Let me introduce you to Jesus. I hope that's a useful passage for you today. Carry on reading both of chapters 17 and 18 because there's loads and loads of stuff in there. Think through it through the day, and we'll come back tomorrow to look at chapter 19. God bless.